We don't have deficits because people are taxed too little. We have deficits because big government, spends too much. Ronald Reagan. All right. Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Liberty Dad podcast, a discussion on politics and culture. I'm your host, DL, America's most objective libertarian. If you're tuning in live, thank you so much for giving me your time so early. All right, folks. First and foremost here, sorry about the tardiness this morning. Having a technical difficulty, and I was like trying to get this worked out. And of course, whenever you have a technical difficulty, it's always at the last moment. And then it always takes much longer. Like it feels like 30 minutes. It might have only been 10, whatever. Anyway, we're past that. We're good to go. All the audio and all the video and everything is all good to go. So we're back. This is what happens when you go on vacation, which is what I was getting ready to lead into, right? Where was I Monday and Tuesday? I was in Atlanta and I had considered podcasting. I was like, oh, I could take, maybe my laptop and, maybe some different equipment, some like, some things that I could go on the road. But the truth is, I don't really have a setup for on the road. So maybe I'll look into that. We'll see. Um, so like I don't have like everything here cannot be moved. Like when my son comes in, I'm like, don't you touch anything. Cause like sometimes I'll come in and he'll have like the dials and everything on my equipment all moved around. And then I have to go back and set them all up. So anyway, that's where I was. Went on vacation this weekend with the family, friend of mine celebrating his birthday. We went up to visit some of his family members and friends up in Atlanta. So that's where, and it was a great break. Honestly, it really was. I had like nothing to do. Like, I mean, obviously there's the vacation things to do, but I mean, like, no, normally what happens is I wake up about 5 a.m. and then my day is just bam, 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 bam. Right. And you might be like, oh, Monday through Friday. No, Monday through Sunday. That's generally my day. If it's not work, it's podcast. If it's not one of those two, then maybe my son's got to go somewhere, or I'm doing something with him, or doing something with the family, or maybe I'm working on my property, maybe I'm working on some other properties. Like there's just always tons and tons of work to do. So it was nice to get out and then Like, it was crazy. I woke up, I slept in. Like, let's see, I didn't sleep in on Saturday because I did a stream Saturday, but I slept in on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Let me tell you what I mean by sleeping in. I didn't wake up until like 7. Like, seriously, that's sleeping in for me. All right, so final update on Rumble. I made it, folks. When I say I made it, we made it. Okay, so if you remember, I was able to get in to the Rumble Creator Program for May. And so then in May, my goal was to stream for 30 hours. Like, I had to like, that was the bare minimum. You had to have 30 hours of stream time. Okay, not a big deal. Why? Because, well, I can stream. I can stream as much as I need, right? I also had to have 5 hours of Rumble Premium. And what that means is it could be 5 hours built into that 30, so 25 and 5, or you could have like 30 and 5, or and of course you could have much more than that. And initially I was kind of like, man, am I going to be able to do this? Because I didn't really know. And turns out I was able to do that. And as it turns out, you, the audience, really helped me out because I also had to have 200 watch hours. And I actually got over 200 watch hours, like it's like 203, something like that. So that was pretty neat. I will say this though, I did not stream like today. Today's June 4th, and it's my first day of streaming, and I'm already at 34.8 hours. So for those of you that are continuing to watch my content, thank you so much. You guys are awesome, right? Like, we're starting off the month already at 34 hours. So that makes me feel really, really good about this month. But don't worry, we're going to keep going at it. I'm not going to slow down. And I'm going to do my best to continually improve the show, deliver better and better and better, not miss any days. And when I can, I will try to tell you about any time that I'm not going to be available. In fact, I should have done that Friday, but I forgot. And just in case you're wondering, if you're like, oh, DL, just he forgets about us. Well, actually, I forgot about everybody, including myself, because my boss was on vacation last week. And prior to vacation, they were like, hey, make sure you submit any PTO so that I can approve it before I go on vacation. And then I forgot. And then about midweek last week, I was like, oh, yeah, I'll be going to Atlanta and I need Monday and Tuesday off. So I ended up working all day Monday. Um, so I kind of didn't have responsibility. I mean, I was able to still sleep in, and I didn't have any other responsibilities, but I did some work things. So we're cool there. So anyway, that's where we are with the show. And what I'm going to probably start doing is next week, I'm going to build in some premium time after the show. Like, I had to kind of figure it out a little bit. And what I've decided is I'm not really a big fan of the show being entirely premium. And there is 2 reasons for that. Number 1, I want my content to be shown. I want my content to be viewed as much as possible. So when you do premium stuff, only premium users can see it. So I actually want my stuff to be seen by as many people as possible. So there's and there's really no advantage to me that I can see so far for doing like more premium. Like, there's an advantage to Rumble because then that means it's an incentive for people to get a premium account. But I don't, so far as I can tell, that doesn't seem to benefit me any more than just, a public show does. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm trying to avoid doing entire shows. But what I'll probably do is maybe one. We'll think about it. But I'm thinking I might do one at least, and then just get my premium hours in after the show. So that's what I'm probably going to do. And, then as we go along, if I find out different things or I find there's an advantage, whatever, then I will adjust accordingly. So that's where we are. Thank you guys so much. You guys were wonderful in getting me, um, past all the thresholds that I needed. So that's awesome. Thank you so much, guys. All right, let's get into it today. Let's see. Before I get into it, let me knock out some comments here, some already comments before we even talked about the show. Let's see what we got here. 4 subscribers away from the 500 threshold to start the monetization process of getting super chats and monthly paid subs. So we're doing well on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't subscribed, go do that. Go give me a subscribe. This helps out the channel. This helps out the monetization, right? All that good stuff. And all of that ends up helping me to create a better show. It gives me more incentive. It gets me excited. I mean, think about it. Like if you're doing a show 5 days a week and then, like you do it for 6 months and maybe get like one subscriber, like this is, you might continue doing it because sometimes you just got to put the time in, but it's a good feeling. Like just put yourself in my shoes. So give me a sub, help me out. Um, yeah, when it comes to podcasters, it's a great day when you don't have to. Believe me, my VA lady. I know. Like, and as I've said before, you would think that somebody in tech would be all about lots of tech, understand all the tech, and have it down pat. The answer is no. That is not the case. So let's see what else we got here. Um, yeah, if you would use that dang calendar. No, if I use the calendar, I would have less time for other things. Um, you can ask all the companies I've ever worked for how well I've done with email and calendars, and they will tell you terrible. It's lucky that I keep jobs. It's that bad. All right. Anyway, let's get into this. We are again, this is Wednesday. Wednesdays are my 47 weekly. It's a name that I don't particularly like, but I haven't found any other names that I like better. And the reason I don't like it is because it looks like I'm spinning off of Mark K's 47 Daily, which I am. I just didn't want you to know about it. But the title of I like honestly 47 weekly, 47 daily. I mean, if you're doing a weekly thing, if you're doing a daily thing, kind of makes sense. So anyway, we're just going to leave it at that for now. 47 weekly hits and misses. I got 3 items on the agenda today. So let's look at this first one. This is, let's see, where are we? And this is where I was having the technical difficulties because the images did not want to show up on the screen, and I was like, "What in the world?" So here's Trump. He didn't really post a whole lot on X. So we went over to Truth Social. That's where he generally spends his time, and he posts quite a bit there. So here's what he said: Yesterday's horrific attack in Boulder, Colorado, which it was very horrific, will not be tolerated in the United States of America. He came in through Biden's ridiculous open border policy, which has hurt our country so badly. He must go out under Trump policy. Acts of terrorism will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. This is yet another example of why we must keep our borders secure and deport illegal anti American radicals from our homeland. My heart goes out to the victims of this terrible tragedy and the great people of Boulder, Colorado. All right. What's my critique here? Um, Number one, extending sympathy for victims. Good. Number two, reassuring Americans that your dedication to law and order. I think in general, that's also good. Now, the way that you could do that can quickly get into where I'm going to say I'm going to object. But in this particular case, like we had a guy, and if you're unfamiliar with the story, really quickly, you had this radical guy. He was here illegally, as far as I can tell. He was from Egypt, and he firebombed some Jewish people. And it was like, what? Like they were protesting. No, some people were protesting, I think. And then he came in, and I don't know what liquids he used, but he basically threw firebombs on people, and he burned them pretty badly, I think. Um, the only thing I have to say about that particular incident is that if you saw the images, it was a man, and he wasn't wearing a shirt, and he had like a couple bottles in his hand, and I think he was like spraying people. I don't know what he was doing exactly, but he literally threw Molotov cocktails at some people, some Jewish people, burned them, sent them to the hospital. I believe they all survived. And here's the thing: as somebody remarked on social media, they said that is a huge center mass. I think they said it's a huge center mass to not have poked holes in it, something like that. What they were getting at is Nobody there was armed and able to take him out the moment he started engaging in violence. So Boulder, Colorado specifically, perhaps you rethink your ridiculous gun laws over there. And I think I heard or saw a video where somebody was far away and they were videotaping the incident and they were like, "I wish I had my gun on me. Like I'm not armed," or something like, they said something to that effect. And that should never happen. In America, we have way too many guns, and it's hard for me to say, "Hey, good guy with a gun," if the government is continually making laws to make it harder for a good guy with a gun to be there. So that's what I got to say about that. All right, back to Trump. What did he say? So the problem that I do have here, he's blaming Biden. That's no. Here's my problem with this. I get it. You believe that this man came from, during the Biden administration as a result of his policies. That has not been established for starters. Like, he was here illegally, but the question of, was he here illegally because Biden let him through? That I don't believe has been worked out just yet. But even still, this is not the time to go blame your predecessor. Reassure the American people, right? Extend the sympathy. And then what you should say, in which he didn't, is, hey, this is a horrible event. We're going to get to the bottom of this and we're going to divulge everything that we find out about it to the American people. That would be, in my opinion, the three things that he should do as president. Again, extend sympathy, reassure your dedication to law and order, because in this particular case, law and order is a good thing, right? We do not tolerate violence on this show, right? Or like, let me think. It's not that we don't tolerate violence. We don't tolerate violence that's not in self-defense. So this man's violence was not in self-defense, so therefore it was immoral. However, had somebody been there with the firearm and they had shot him, that kind of violence would have been tolerated and it would have been very acceptable. Okay. And so then the third thing is, of course, that Trump should, let people know, hey, we're going to be transparent. We're going to give you everything that we learn about this man so that you, the citizen, will know what's going on. We can work it out. We can work out whether or not we blame Biden or not. We don't need the president to do that. Not in the short term aftermath. Maybe after, people are done being angry or sad, if you happen to be familiar with the victims, right? Or just empathize with the victims. After that, after some time has passed, sure, come out and say, hey, this wouldn't have happened, if Biden hadn't done this. That's fine. But I think in the short term, in the immediate, right after some event, I don't think that's the time to go and politicize events. Sorry. That's just how I feel. All right. Let's see what else we got. So this one is so funny. Michael Wolff, a third-rate reporter who is laughed at even by the scoundrels at the fake news, recently stated that the only reason I'm, quote, beating up on Harvard is because I applied there and didn't get in. That story is false. Totally false. I never applied to Harvard. I graduated from the Wharton School of Finance at the University of Pennsylvania. He is upset because his book about me was a total bomb. Nobody wanted it because his reporting and reputation is so bad. Okay. Let's So first and foremost, I could not find any evidence that Trump applied to Harvard and could not get in. Perhaps that's the case. I didn't find it. I didn't do a lot of digging, but just and here's the thing. Right now, it's very difficult to go and tease through information and search because, like, everybody wants to talk about the Harvard issue with Trump, and so trying to figure out, like, okay, was there any evidence that he applied to Harvard and couldn't get in? I don't see any evidence of that, and I haven't seen Michael Wolff's evidence. But, as far as I know, Wharton School is a pretty prestigious school. Like, that's not some low rank school. Like, if you went there, you're getting jobs somewhere, right? Like that's like if you went there and you graduated, like finance or something along that line, like you're coming out in pretty good condition. So I don't think that's an issue. But here's the thing. Then Trump has this ego problem. Like the moment somebody talks about him, he's all like, "You just gotta say something back." And I'm like, "Man, you are the president. You don't have to say anything to anybody." Now I get it. The president doesn't always do good things, right? In fact, on a regular basis, presidents don't do good things. But the truth of the matter is, he's been president now twice, right? He lost the second run, but he won this time. So he's been president once. Now he's president again. He's a billionaire. Like, dude, you have nothing to prove to anybody. Just go do good work. And if people talk trash about you, right or wrong, again, the American public can figure this out. We can do our research. We can decide if that's true or not. We can decide if it matters. Like, let's say he did try to get into Harvard and he couldn't get in. I'm not even sure that that's actually meaningful because a lot of people have trouble getting to Harvard who are very talented, right? Like for any number of reasons. And we could go down the line on whether or not Harvard has good selection criteria, and there's been critics in the past like David Hogg, right? Is he the former vice chair of the DNC? I don't know. I can't remember if they've actually removed him yet or not, but they were working on it. But he was the vice chair at least, if he's not still. Okay. And he managed to get into Harvard. And we've seen video of him being a dummy. Like like remember the video where he's on stage in Canada with Michael um oh, what's his name? I can see him, he's the fat guy. Any Michael he's the fat documentary guy. Um drawing a blank. Ah Anyway, so David Hogg was on stage in Canada and suggested or told the audience that they should donate to to candidates in the United States. Like this is the kind of guy that got into Harvard. He didn't even know that he literally was suggesting something illegal. Because if you're a foreigner, you are not allowed to donate to candidates here in the United States. Um, Man, I wish I could remember his name. Is Michael something? He's the guy that no, we're gonna look it up. David Hogg, Michael, and then let's see here, Canada. We're gonna do this. Michael Moore. That's it. I couldn't remember. So Michael Moore, he was on stage, and Michael Moore had to grab the microphone and be like, "Yeah, no, that's illegal. You can't do that." And then he was like, "Oh, okay." So anyway, to get back to my point, even if Trump applied to Harvard and couldn't get in, I don't think that really says anything, especially since he did go to a prestigious school. So, dude, you could just let this go. Now, I was curious because he was like, because Trump says, well, he's upset because his book about me was a total bomb. Nobody wanted it because his reporting and reputation is so bad. So, number one, let's talk about that. According to Wikipedia, like I just did a simple search on this particular case because, like, it doesn't matter if Wikipedia is completely correct in this particular case because I think it's close enough. Um, it describes him as an American journalist, as well as a columnist and a contributor to USA Today, The Hollywood Reporter, and the UK edition of GQ. And he has received 2 National Magazine Awards, a Mirror Award, and has authored 7 books. So I don't know. I feel like the guy's probably doing pretty well. Like he doesn't seem like he's a total failure. But then you got this. So here's the New York Times. And you might notice over here on the far right, it says March 16th. But on the week of March 16th, his book, All or Nothing About Trump, was number 10 on the bestseller list for hardcover nonfiction. So all I'm gonna say is like that doesn't sound like his book bombed. Doesn't sound like it was so poor and terrible. It was the number 10. Now you might look and say, okay, DL, it's the New York Times. Again, the New York Times has tons of books and they have a ranking. It's something that we can look at. We can compare it to something else, right? We can see what other books were there, where they ranked. So even though you might think that their reporting is terrible, it is a nice place to look and just kind of see what rankings books have. And he had number 10, right? There's a lot of books that don't make the list. Okay. So there's that. And then there's also this on Amazon. It's a little hard to see, but you can see down here it says number one bestseller in general elections and politics. So, and that's current, right? And then it describes it here. New York Times bestseller, the author of Fire and Fury, delivers a breathtaking insider account of the 2024 Trump campaign. Undoubtedly, the wildest, most unpredictable campaign in U.S. history, including multiple criminal trials to assassination attempts, and a sudden blah, 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 blah. So, what do we glean from this? We glean that perhaps Trump is just exaggerating once again because he got butthurt. And so I'm just like, dude, you need to know. Just stop. So here's the thing. It's his MO that when somebody swings at him, he swings back harder. But again, as I point out, he is the president. He was the president prior. He's a billionaire. His name is well known. Like at this point, it doesn't matter. Just do good work. Keep, focus on that. Put it out there. We can make heads or tails of it, Mr. President. Like people like me will get out there and say, hey, this guy criticized the president. Here's where this guy's wrong, or here's where this guy got it right, so on and so forth. We can do that. You no longer need to, like, this is no longer the campaign trail and you can't run again. So let it go. Where's that? It's like this song, let it go, let it go. I'm not going to sing, please. I promise you I won't do that. Anyway, so, yes. Joe pointed out, he was like, Michael Moore. Yes, thank you. Thank you, my audience, for being on top of things, being sharper than me in the morning. So that's where we are so far with a couple of items. I got one more here. We're going to go to break, probably be a little bit shorter show today. And that's cool. We're going to go to break and then we'll come back. And then let's see, are there any other comments in here? No, that was just that one. So thank you guys for your comments. Let me make sure there's nothing on the other socials. Yeah, we're good to go there. So let's go to a quick intermission here. And then when we come back, we will continue talking about, let's see, I'm trying to figure out which, let's do this one. I think it seems like a good video there. So I'm trying to decide which video that I want. So we'll go to intermission. We'll come back and we'll talk about the last thing. We'll wrap it up. And then, we'll all be on about our day.
The day I got cited, I was blindsided.
I couldn't believe that I was in America. I left a place where that stuff happens, but not here. Here, this is the land of opportunity.
I didn't do anything wrong.
I just couldn't believe it. I didn't do anything wrong.
You think that you're doing things the right way. You think that you're a law-abiding citizen.
And they said I was under arrest for braiding hair, and they took me to jail.
They seized a little over $100,000 out of the my business account here. Took 13 years to get it, and less than 13 seconds, I guess, to take it away.
I remember my attorneys telling me, most people don't win against the government.
Because I know now that we have more than just a chance. I know that we're going to keep our homes.
If we win here at the U.S. Supreme Court, it makes a difference for my girls and for so many other families.
I'm fighting back because I don't want to have a lot of other people have to go through the same thing I'm going through with their property getting seized.
We changed the law so that everybody else can be treated fairly.
I want the opportunity
to operate my legal business,
to practice my craft,
to meet the needs of my community in an innovative way.
And someone has to stand up.
Hey, Liberty fam, do me a favor. If you enjoy the show, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button to my channel. And for the really serious folks out there, I want you to hit that bell so that you never miss an episode. By the way, if you want to support the show, head over to libertydad.locals.com and sign up. For $5, you can be part of this show. There, I'll engage supporters of the show. We'll discuss topics that you want me to talk about, response videos that you would like to see, or anything related to the show. And I'll even have a monthly subscribers only episode. By the way, I'm always looking for dads to join me for Dad Talk. That's my series where I invite everyday dads on to talk about what's important to them in the context of being a dad. No argument, no debate, and dads choose the topic. It's my way of raising dad voices. If you're a dad or you know a dad who has something to say, let's get connected. Episodes air live on Friday mornings or Friday evenings, whichever works best for dads. All right, let's get back to the show. All right, back from our little intermission there. All right, so it's I just want to point out here that my VA lady had pointed out. She said, "Hey Joe, where you been?" And yeah, he's like, "Hey," he's like, "I've been busy with some other work projects." Now, normally I don't put out like the conversations that people are having amongst themselves, but I just want to point out it is good to see you back, Joe. So appreciate you tuning in. And I get it. We all get busy sometimes, right? And then we go on vacation. We just mysteriously don't podcast. And then we come back and then we're late, right? Like we all do that, right? Something like that. All right. Anyway, let's see what else we got for Donald Trump. I got this big, beautiful bill. Now I'm going to withhold talking about the bill itself because that could be a long conversation. And that's not really about Trump itself, right? That's more about Congress and all their shenanigans. But I will show this because I thought this was interesting. So let's get here. So he said, Donald Trump posted, he said, Rand Paul has very little understanding of the big, beautiful bill, especially the tremendous growth that is coming. He loves voting no on everything. He thinks it's good politics, but it's not. The big, beautiful bill is a big winner. Now, when it comes to things he supports, and if he wants to use, rhetoric that's, big and kind of like emphatic, fine. I don't really have an issue with that. Like if you support something, fine, go all out and support it. And that is his MO. However, whenever he gets mad at somebody, all of a sudden they're like the dumbest, the worst person in the world. And I'm like, you really need to have Congress on your side, right? Like he keeps pushing people away, like Thomas Massey, Rand Paul, and as we'll see in a moment here, it seems like even Elon Musk, although he didn't push Elon Musk away based on his rhetoric, but kind of somewhat related. So then he goes on in a different tweet, and he said Rand votes no on everything, but never has any practical or constructive ideas. His ideas are actually crazy. Losers. The people of Kentucky can't stand him. This is a big growth bill. All right. Well, I was going to like go dig up Rand Paul's record, kind of point it out. But then in the process, I found out that Rand Paul actually responded to Donald Trump. So let's hear what he had to say.
Senators who opposed this spending bill was called out by President Trump in a post on Truth Social. The president wrote, Rand Paul has very little understanding of the big, beautiful bill, especially the tremendous growth that is coming. He loves voting no on everything. He thinks it's good politics, but it's not. The big, beautiful bill is a big winner. So now let's hear from the senator himself. Joining me now is Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. Senator, thanks for being with me here today. First, I'd love to just get your response to the president.
Well, I'm guessing that when I voted no on both impeachments that the president wasn't happy with me loving to vote no. I'm guessing when I voted yes for most every member of his cabinet except for one, he probably wasn't unhappy with that either. What I would say is we have a disagreement, and we can still be friends, and I've told him this too. We can still be friends and have a disagreement. But to put things in perspective, the bill increases spending for the military and for border over $300 billion. The DOGE cuts, which aren't in this bill, were about $200 billion. So this bill actually increases in the first couple of years spending more than all the DOGE cuts combined. Now we're going to do $9 billion. That's, very small. It's a rounding error. I'm for it. I think Elon's done a great job. $9 billion is a pittance, but I'm for it. I absolutely am for cutting the $9 billion. But I fear, I fear we might not have the votes to cut the $9 billion. If we don't, I suggest people grab their pitchforks, figuratively, and march on Washington. If Republicans cannot cut $9 billion, we've got a problem with Republicans.
If you don't have the votes for $9 billion, we've got a real problem because we're talking about much bigger problems and bigger numbers. On that note, I want to get you to address the two things we just heard from OMB Director Russ Vought, and one made by the president. First of all, they argue the big, beautiful bill puts in place growth measures that you're not accounting for. I've been around this game for a while. You have as well. I do know that growth is something that every administration counts on to offset their spending. But do you not think the president has a point with deregulation and tax cuts that we could see real growth that actually helps not jack up the deficit as is accounted for?
I actually do, and this is where I think the president and I are talking past each other. I accept the growth arguments. I actually accept that cutting taxes can grow revenue. I believe it happened under Reagan. I believe it happened under the first Trump term, and I supported the tax cuts in the first term. I still support them. I support making them permanent, and I do believe they will bring in more revenue than the CBO projects. My objection to the bill isn't about the tax cuts, and it isn't about those calculations. My objection to the bill is they're going to raise the debt ceiling more than they ever have, $5 trillion, and that this will be the largest increase in the debt ceiling ever. And if the Republicans all vote for it, the Republicans will own the debt. They will lose their high moral ground. We will no longer be the party that can say, look at the Democrats. They're the ones, foisting the debt on our country. We're drowning in a sea of debt caused by Democrats, which has largely been true. But I think now if they vote for this, so if they separate out the debt ceiling, I could be for the bill.
Okay. That's fascinating to hear, and I'm glad to hear your argument on both the growth side and the accounting side. You're worried about the debt ceiling and, of course, the lack of DOGE cuts, which we will.
All right. So does that in any way sound like Rand Paul, A, votes no on everything? And you can go look at his record. His record is not voting no on everything. Now, maybe he voted in ways that you disagree with, and that's fine. You can argue and say, hey, you voted no here, but you should have voted yes. And you can also say, you voted yes here, but you should have voted no. That's an argument to be had. However, there is no argument to be had that he votes no on everything, right? Like, it's just not there. So I think the president needs to, again, dial back his rhetoric and talk somewhere between truth and transparency and leave it at that, right? Rather than attacking members in Congress who, by the way, he's attacked Massey, he's attacked Rand Paul, and he's attacked others that a lot of people who are really concerned about government growth and government overreach, people within the liberty sphere, those people respect the names that Trump keeps attacking. Like, he came out a while back, like, what was it, a month ago? Probably not even a month ago. And he started calling for Thomas Massey to be primaried. That's ridiculous. Stop attacking the best, the people that are viewed as the best advocates for liberty in Congress. Stop doing that. I get it. You're a lame duck. You don't have to. But you also don't have to make this argument. You can say, all right, let's do this. And turns out that Senator Rand Paul actually had some ideas under which he would say, yes, I will vote favorably for this bill. He laid them out. And I'm sure that he laid them out prior to this when he was talking to President Trump or his colleagues, right? Like, this is not, it's not like he finally got on camera and said, okay, here are my ideas. Here's what it would take for me to support this. It's not happening. Now, you might disagree, as libertarians or people that are really invested in liberty, you might disagree with Rand Paul's particular
assessments, and that's fine. Again, those are arguments that we could all have. Right now, what
what I want to get across is that the American people need to start pushing back on Trump and saying, knock it off, right? Just stop. Because at this point, we want a functioning government. I mean, maybe some of us do. Now, I want to address one other claim. Trump said, let me show you on the screen here. He goes, Rand votes no on everything, but never has any practical or constructive ideas. Okay, obviously not true. We just heard that. His ideas are actually crazy, losers. The people of Kentucky can't stand him. True? Is that true? The people of Kentucky can't stand him? Okay, well, take a look at this. Here was his last election. Almost 62% in his favor. 62% to 38. Right? That doesn't sound like the people of Kentucky cannot stand him. That sounds like the people of Kentucky support him. So, Mr. President, I think Rand Paul makes a good argument, right? At least a good political argument. Okay? Where he says, if we start passing this as a Republican Party, we meaning them, not me, but if they start supporting these kind of bills, they are going to own the debt. They are going to own the result of it. And they will lose political ground when they keep saying, it's the Democrats, which, by the way, I would say for libertarians, you've probably already lost ground, like depending on who you are. If you're Thomas Massey, you have not lost ground, right? You are very consistent in being against fiscal waste, unnecessary spending, and so forth. So it really depends on who you are. But overall, the Republican Party, as far as I'm concerned, they've already lost ground. But he's making this argument. He's saying, like, look, it's going to make it harder for us to go and point the finger at the Democrats. I think he's correct. And then let's look at some other things here. Here's what Elon Musk had to say. Remember, Elon Musk was brought in by Trump. They practically campaigned together, right? He was brought in to do Doge. Here's what Musk just recently tweeted. I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you were wrong. You know it. Okay? When you're losing Elon Musk, probably not a good thing. Probably stop boasting about this, quote, big, beautiful bill. Perhaps it's not so beautiful. It's definitely big. But perhaps it's not so beautiful. Perhaps you need to shut your trap, Trump. What else we got here? Thomas Massey, speaking of, in response to somebody else, he asked Grok, the Twitter AI, he says, will the big, beautiful bill result in higher or lower deficits during Trump's term in office? And Grok came back and said, why am I in the way? Said, the one big, beautiful bill will likely increase federal deficits during Trump's term, 2025 to 2029. CBO estimates add $2.3 trillion to deficits over 10 years, with significant impact in the first 5. CRFB projects $2.5 trillion to $3.1 trillion in debt, mostly near term. Supporters claim $1.6 trillion in savings via economic growth, but static scoring shows higher deficits. Growth projections are uncertain, so deficits are more likely to rise. Okay? Now you can argue, we can all have arguments and disagree on whether or not these projections are correct and blah, blah. But here's the thing. There are an awful lot of people that have a good record that are coming out and saying this bill is a problem. So perhaps we listen to them, right? Trump does not have that record. He does not have the record that Rand Paul has. He definitely doesn't have the record that Thomas Massey has. And there is no like record per se with Elon Musk. However, he was a huge champion of the Doge cuts, which, by the way, as Rand Paul said, are not in this bill. So all I'm saying here is perhaps Trump should reconsider when you've got Elon Musk, Thomas Massey, and Rand Paul, and other other people that are good on fiscal matters that are criticizing this bill. Perhaps he should reconsider his rhetoric, right? Because he does have a lot of weight, whether we like it or not. He does. He shouldn't, right? That's not really how Congress should work. But I think the American people need to wise up and they need to push back and say, hey, you knock it off. And then they look at the Republicans and say, you fix this bill, do better. So I just wanted to kind of point out that he's still fighting with good people, and you get the government that you allow. So if you don't want that, if you want good people to remain in office, right? If you want good people to continue to deliver good things, good votes, good information, well, you need to start pushing back on the people that are giving them a hard time, that are literally trying to get them removed. Maybe not removed, but unseat them. So for me, I think in this particular case, Trump is failing, right? I'm not a big fan of it. And we're not even talking about the contents of the bill itself. Like that's a problem in its own right. We could have a longer conversation about that. But to be honest with you, everybody's talking about it. As far as I'm concerned, the fact that that it included a prohibition on states for 10 years to regulate AI in the wake of is it Palantir, the big huge behemoth software that's basically going to take all this information and centralize it and then analyze it and then give people an analysis for which to act upon it, government for which to act upon it. As far as I'm concerned, that alone makes the bill atrocious. That alone. Like we don't even have to talk about the spending and all that other stuff. Just the fact that it's telling states you can't regulate AI in what you would consider to be the best interest of your state. I would reject that altogether, even if Palantir wasn't a thing. But it's especially critical now that Palantir's is a thing. So as far as I'm concerned, the big beautiful bill is not beautiful at all for many reasons. But more importantly, Trump needs to knock it off on taking swings at everybody, because at some point he needs to set his ego aside and he needs to serve the American people. That should have been on day one of his presidency. However, as we've seen, it has not yet happened. And the reason it's not happening is because you, the American public, are not raising your voice loud enough. All right, let me get to some comments here. And then we will head out for the day. I told you it was going to be a little shorter show today. Let's see here. That Liberty Lady says, when Rand and Massey vote with GOP, then it's okay. Then it's principled. I roll. Fair enough. Fair point. Let's see. Joe gets a shout out. What about your VA? Yes, my VA lady. Look, my phone is over there. But let me tell you about my VA lady. Okay. Boot DL. She stands on my neck constantly, driving me crazy in a good way, positively, still driving me crazy. Be texting me all kind of stuff. Like, did you see this? Did you see this? What are you going to do about this? This morning, I was running behind. What did I get? I got a text. Hey, get on the show. That's not really what she said, but she was like, hey, you're late. Time is ticking, right? So if you like this show, you should thank my VA lady, because she does her best to keep me in line, right? What do they say? Behind every great man, I don't know if I'm great, but we'll just pretend. Behind every great man is a greater woman, something like that. Yeah, see, even this show has it, right? This show has a great woman, helping push this show and make it great. So make sure you definitely thank her for all her hard work and frustration dealing with the likes of me. Let's see what else we got here. The Goofies on X saying we the people are going to primary Massey. I have no idea how anything works. Kentucky, keep putting both him and Rand in their seats. If I moved out of Florida, I might move to Kentucky. Fair point, but I will say this: never, ever, ever rest on your laurels, because there are a lot of people that do not like Thomas Massey, and not just related to Trump. He's pissed off AIPAC more than once. So I think that we should never rest on our laurels, never get too comfortable with the fact that Thomas Massey and Rand Paul keep getting reelected. And of course, one day they won't get reelected because they will simply age out. Now, because it's Congress, it won't be till they're like 90, but they will eventually age out. Let's see. Time surfing alien points out, when Trump bankrupted a casino, I knew he wasn't the financial wizard everyone seems to think he is. That's a fair point. Another fair point is that I don't know if it's a fair point, but another comment that a lot of people kind of respond back to that is they'll say, like, this was more of a business move. I have not evaluated that, but if it is, then perhaps we need to revise our laws so that bankruptcy isn't considered a positive business move, like a way, like, how they say if you get fined, like $2,000, but you ended up making $5,000, then the fine was just the cost of doing business. We need to make sure that bankruptcy is not part of the cost of doing business for somebody. So for those people, if that is true, if Trump was using bankruptcy to his advantage, then we need to adjust the laws, because at the end of the day, if your business cannot make money, you should get no bailouts of any kind, and you should be held accountable. It should be that if you fail at business, it's much more difficult for you to get funding later, right? It shouldn't be easy, because investors should look and say, wait a minute, why is it that you had to file bankruptcy? How did you run your business such that you considered this, or this ended up being the result? It's kind of like when regular people go to a job interview and they've got a spotty record, and then they have to say, like, and the employer's like, okay, I see that you have a 6-month break gap in your resume. Can you explain that? That should be intentionally explained. Yes, I took 6 months because, I went back to school and I got some more education and I wanted to focus on it, and I had the opportunity to focus, right? Something like that. It should not be like, oh yeah, well, I was having trouble finding a job. Well, the same way, we should be able to look at someone's business record, and we should say, if I'm an investor, I should say, why'd you file bankruptcy? And they should say something like, well, business was going well. I can show you how it was going great. But then all of a sudden, COVID hit, the government shut everything down, and nobody was prepared for it, including me. Like something like that, something extraordinary that is out, that can explain why, hey, under typical circumstances, you are a good business owner. So whatever the case is, I think you have a good point there. Time surfing alien. All right, let's see what else. Do. Good luck. Ego is the only quality Trump has. Fair point. That's a fair point. That is true. Let's see here. Looking forward to tomorrow night. I don't know what tomorrow night is. Oh, you might mean locally? Yes. So yeah, he answers the question. Keith Garrett says, lady, my VA lady, Duval LP business meeting. I will try to make that, guys. We will see. It's funny. I was the chair here locally for the Duval Libertarian Party. And then since March, when we had our elections and I didn't run again, and then somebody else stepped up to be the chair, I have not made a meeting since. That is not on purpose. That is to show well, it's kind of on purpose. Like, I had other things that were taking my attention. But the truth of the matter is, I've always been that busy. I just forced myself to find the time to attend the meetings while I was chair. So what you're seeing, if you don't see me, you're just seeing the reality of what has been for quite some time, and why I have stepped down and no longer running as chair, or no longer chose to be chair. So, but hopefully I'll make that out. Speaking of evenings, let me tease you guys a little bit. So I'm in the process of getting a guest on the show. Everything's looking good. I don't want to necessarily divulge who it is. I guess if I'm going to tease y'all, I'll have to tell you a little bit about the topic. So there was a news article from, I believe, a local news article about Action Jack's News. I think that's who it was. And they were talking about a lawsuit that failed. So here in Jacksonville, they passed legislation that said you had to be 21 to be a stripper. And so I just happened to see News for Jacks. I think it was News for Jacks, or maybe it might have been Action Jacks News. But I saw an article from a local media, and they were talking about how this lawsuit failed, and so that the 21 age will remain. Well, in the comments, as I was just kind of perusing through, and in the comments, somebody pointed out, she was like, hey, I've been reaching out to you for a long time to talk about physical abuse that dancers have been experiencing and how they get fired by local strip clubs if they talk about it. And so she was like, I want to talk about it. And I was like, oh. And I was like, the media is not picking up on this story. Now, why is this of interest to me? You might say, DL, you're Liberty Dad. You have a wholesome show. Well, no, I don't have a wholesome show. I just try to keep it family friendly. But more importantly, I don't like violence. And I don't care if that violence is against a sex worker. And if it's local, then I'm kind of interested because this is where I live. And if you're asking me, do you think strip clubs should exist? I would say, well, in an ideal world, maybe women would find what I would think are better things to do with their time and their ability to make money, right? That might be my preference, but I'm not going to use government to impose that preference. But more important to that is that I don't want anybody doing something that's legal to have to experience violence. So we're going to have that. We're going to have that person on the show. I'm thinking that's going to be next. What did I say? Tuesday. I think I told her Tuesday night. So look forward to that. Just as a record, while I generally keep the show family friendly, that episode will probably blur the lines a little bit, just given the nature of the topic. So if you're tuning in live, you may not want your little ones around for that because the conversation may involve, some things that are not appropriate for your child. We will try to keep it as close to family friendly as possible, but I do want to report on things that are happening, and we do want to expose bad actors in our society. And if you are violent towards somebody else, or you are covering for somebody's violence, I want to expose you. So that's so look forward to that. But otherwise, I will think that's it here. Time surfing alien. I thought they were no longer strippers. I thought they all became lingerie models. Perhaps. I'm not sure if there's a new term for. I do not frequent these establishments. I think the last time that I've been to one was like 10 years ago. And I went because a buddy was having his bachelor party. It's not really my thing. I just don't have any desire to go spend a bunch of money and then go home alone. Right? Seems kind of silly to me. But your mileage may vary, and I am not judging you for it. So anyway, look forward to that. And that's my show for today, folks. So thanks for tuning in. I will see you guys tomorrow. So have a good one. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this episode informative and inspiring. Be sure to catch me Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. for an informed discussion on politics and culture. Make sure that you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, or if you prefer my Rumble channel, you can go to youtube.libertydad.com, or you can go to rumble.libertydad.com. While you are there, let me know how I'm doing by leaving me a comment. You can also become part of the community by heading over to libertydad.locals.com. Remember, if you're a champion of liberty, your business is people and your product is liberty. I want you to have a great week. Catch you next time. But for now, I'm out.